and welcome back to the Millennial Book Junkie. My name is Monique, and today I'm going to be sharing with you all of the books that I read in April of 2026. Now, I am usually more of a thriller and horror reader, but sometimes I'll sprinkle in some other books from other genres because I am a part of a couple other book clubs. So this month, I actually read like 95% horror thriller, but there is one book that I'm going to share with you that was not in that genre. When I look back on this reading month, I have to say that it was a little bit so-so. Even though I had 2 5-star reads, which is the exact same amount of 5-star reads that I had last month, for some reason this month just left me with kind of like a meh feeling. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I had more 3 stars than I did last month. I'm not sure. And also maybe it was because I read less books this month than I did last month, and so I was a little disappointed with myself. But let's dive into the stats. In April of 2026, I read 7 books. This totaled 2,434 pages, and they were all fiction. I read 2 physical books, listened to 4 audiobooks, and then I read 1 book on my Kindle, which means I am definitely not making a dent at all in my physical TBR. I mean, I read 7 books, and only 2 of them were ones that I owned. I have at least 50 books on a TBR cart over there, and they are just not getting read. I told myself I would read all my physical TBR this year. It is not happening. So let's talk about ratings. This month I had only 2 5 stars, and my average star rating for the month was 4 stars. This is a little bit lower than it was last month. Last month my average star rating was 4.28. Now it's 4. It went down a little bit. But hey, an average star rating of 4 stars is not terrible. But like I said, this past month, I don't know. I don't think I was feeling it reading wise. But I did read a couple of bangers, I will say, so I'm excited to share those with you. The first book I read in April was a collection of ghost stories called I Was Alive Here Once. I pulled this one from my physical TBR and I was really excited to read it. Basically, it's 8 ghost stories told from authors from around the world. So you get kind of a diverse perspective on the ghost story, which usually is pretty traditional, but when seen through the eyes of different people from different cultures, it's actually really interesting. I was really hooked by the first ghost story in this book about a young woman who dies at a creek and is just kind of damned to be there for the rest of her days. And she's sad and she's lonely. And I really, really loved this depiction of her just like sitting in the creek. People were afraid to go there, but she didn't have anywhere else to go. And it was just really haunting. And she actually, that story was, they say I Was Alive Here Once, which is the title of this book. I really, really loved that story. There were also a couple of other stories in here that really stood out to me. Not necessarily creepy, but just interesting. I feel like overall, it's really having more to do with like change and trauma. But I do really like the diverse perspectives that we get in this book on the traditional ghost story, so I gave it a 3.5. The next book I read in April was The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. This is the same author who wrote The Lion Women of Tehran, if you're familiar. It's a book I read with my family book club, and it was one that I really, really enjoyed. It's about a young girl named Roya. She's a bit of a bookworm. It's 1953, Tehran. There is a bit of political upheaval all around her. She wanders into her favorite stationery shop, and one day she meets a young man named Bahman, and she falls in love with him. And she's 16, 17 years old, and they kind of have this like whirlwind romance, and they get engaged, and they're just in love, even though the world around them seems to be falling apart. But then one day, her love disappears. Him and his family just vanish. And we are all, as readers, thinking like, what just happened? Our head is spinning. We're rooting for them to be together, but then he just vanishes. And she's left to kind of pick up the pieces and figure out how to move on with her life when, the love of her life, this man she was about to marry, just disappears on her. And so she's left trying to put her life back together and move on with her life. And this book is really kind of a tragic love story, I will say. It left me very sad. It has that Romeo and Juliet vibe where you really want them to get together, but it's kind of a tragic ending. It was emotional. I really liked it. I really enjoyed learning about what it was like to grow up in Iran in the 1950s. That was really interesting. So it's kind of a historical fiction in that sense. If you are curious about that, definitely pick this one up. And if you enjoy historical fiction, I would highly recommend this one. Bring a box of tissues. There's a lot of emotion. It does get a little heavy, but I really enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4 star. The next book I read in April was The Fourth Monkey by J.D. Barker. Oh my goodness. This one was good. This one is about a serial killer who has been on a murder streak terrorizing Chicago for the last 5 years. Now, he's a special type of psychopath in that he sends messages to police while he abducts these women, and one day the police find this guy's body because he apparently died on the way to deliver one of these messages because he had recently abducted a girl. And so they find his body and they're like, okay, we gotta like figure out where this girl is because clearly he was about to send this like message saying something about this girl. You have to read it. But anyway, on his person, they discover a personal diary, and the lead investigator, Sam Porter, is left trying to figure out basically the mind of this psychopath because it's like a diary of the psychopath that's found on his body. And so as we are plunged into this investigation trying to find this missing girl, we are also reading this diary. So we are also inside the mind of this psychopath. If you like fast-paced thrillers that put you in the mind of a psychopath, this one is definitely for you. I really enjoyed it. It reminded me of that movie Seven, if you're familiar. Very dark, but very good. Classic Brad Pitt. I just got like the vibes of the villain from Seven while I was reading this book. And this book is actually book one. It's part of a series of 3 books and maybe 4. I don't know. But right now there's 3 books. So I don't know if that's the end or a 4th one is coming out soon. But I cannot wait to get my hands on those other books because I really enjoyed this one. It was dark, but I loved it. And if you like that kind of stuff, this one's definitely for you. This was a 5-star from me, out of the park, absolutely loved it. The next book I read was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, and this one is about a disgraced actress who has come across a bit of bad press. So she decides to go to her lakeside cabin. She's gonna drink herself away and drown in her sorrows, and she's there kind of recovering. Also, she's recently widowed, so take some pity on her. And so she's at her lakeside cabin and she sees a woman drowning and she's like, I have to save her. And so she ends up saving her, but this woman, she finds out, is a former model, and they kind of know of each other because, you know, she's an actress, and they start getting along. And then one day the woman just vanishes. She just straight up disappears. And, you know, this girl, our main character, is like, where did she go? And she actually lives across the lake from our main character, this woman that disappeared. And so our main character is like, where did she go? Did her husband kill her? You know, and her husband's this like tech guy, tech mogul guy. And so she's like consumed with like trying to find this woman who she saved from the water and is now missing. And while she's investigating where this woman went, she stumbles across something much darker than what she anticipated. And let me just say, this twist is pretty much out there, but in the best way. If you like paranormal thrillers, this one is for you. This is not my first Riley Sager. I read The Only One Left, and yes, that one had a bunch of twists and I did enjoy it, but there's something about too many twists that just drives me nuts, and this one did not have that. This one had a couple twists, but for some reason I was fine with the final twist. The big twist was my favorite. I don't know what it is about this one, but like, I like paranormal stuff, and when I found out the twist in this book, I was like, no way. I had to like literally tell this Facebook group that I'm a part of like thriller readers. I had to literally say, where did this come from? Because I absolutely loved this twist in this book. It was right up my alley. And while I gave this book a 4-star, I really feel like it has 5-star energy, but it just wasn't a complete 5-star for me just because I don't feel like I was like totally consumed by it, like in my bones, but it was really good and I highly recommend it. And the final twist was like whatever, but I don't know. I really liked the main twist. And so every time I see this book, which I should have been holding up this whole time, every time I see this book, I just am like, oh my God, that was good. So yeah, I recommend House Across the Lake big time. This one was really good. Read it when you are at a lakeside cabin. Read it on your summer vacation. I think that's the best time to read it. I really loved it. 4-star from me. The next book I read in April was The Island by Adrienne McKinty, and this is a new author to me. I got the recommendation to read this book in a Facebook thriller group I'm a part of, and it sounded really good. It's about a family of 4 who travel to Australia because the father has a conference. He's an orthopedic surgeon. So they go on this trip to Australia. The father is newly widowed, and he has a new wife. Her name's Heather, and she is younger than him, much younger. He already has 2 kids, so they're teenagers, and they have to now adapt to this young stepmom that they're getting, and that's never good. But anyway, so they're all in Australia, and they're traveling around, and they stumble across these locals who promise that on their deserted private island that they can see some koalas. The kids have been wanting to see more animals. They've been really pestering their dad about seeing more koalas. So they go on this private island, even though the locals say you can only stay for a few minutes, then you have to leave because this is a highly private place. There is no law enforcement. There's no Wi-Fi. So come at your own risk. Red flag, definitely. But the kids really want to see the dang koalas, so they go to this island, and the whole time they are on the island, my heart is pounding because I know something bad's going to happen. And so they get to this island, and sure enough, something bad happens. And I want to say, like, 2 or 3 hours into this book, because I listened to it on audio, I was like, high pressure situation. My heart was pounding. I didn't even want to listen to it because I was so tense and stressed out. And so they get to this island, and of course the people are there, and they capture them, and it becomes like this survival thriller on an island, and these people have to find a way to survive. Now, the way I'm describing it sounds like an amazing thriller, right? Like something you want to pick up. And I will say that the first 2 to 3 hours of this book really had me gripped. But after that, things just took a crazy turn. Now, the story is really good. I would say the story is solid, but something about the dialogue really changed for me. And the main character's husband, the guy who's like newly widowed, I don't know what his problem was, but he was a complete a-hole, I will say. There's a line where he says, "My wife, she's a millennial. She doesn't know anything." Okay, let's stop harping on the millennials for like a second. And who says that really? I mean, this guy's like in his 40s. But as soon as he said that, I was like, I don't like this guy. And do I even like this book? Do I like this character? And from then on, I don't know why, but the characters all started to bother me for some reason. And the wife suddenly had like all this knowledge about how to survive. And we were given some backstory about her, but I just was like, couldn't reconcile her backstory with like all this knowledge that she now had. And on top of that, her relationship with the teenagers were so strained, and they're trying to bond and just trying to do things together, but I couldn't feel anything with them. I couldn't feel anything with the teenagers. I couldn't feel anything with the main character. And so while this went on, yes, it was suspenseful at times, but I just found myself being like, what is happening here? And when is this going to be over? Even though the beginning was very good. So I gave this one a 3-star because they had some really good tension in the beginning. And overall, I did feel like it was a good story, but the dialogue needed a bit of work. And I also just did not feel any connection to the characters. So I gave this one a 3-star. Read at your own risk. The next book I read in April was The River at Night by Erica Ferenchik. And Erica Ferenchik, where have you been all my life? This book immediately grabbed me just from the synopsis. It was about 4 women who are middle-aged, and they meet up every year for their annual girls' trip. And this year they are going whitewater rafting in the Maine wilderness. Immediately, I got Descent vibes. Descent is one of my favorite horror movies, and it begins with women who are whitewater rafting. So immediately this book had me just from the synopsis. So they go whitewater rafting in the middle of nowhere, Maine, on this river that no one has ever rafted before. And one of the girls is all excited about it. And they have this guide with them, this guy who's 15 years younger than them and totally cute, whatever. He's in his 20s. And so they go on this river rafting trip with this guy. And of course, something bad happens, something tragic, a freak accident. And now they're left to survive in the wilderness on their own. And I was not really seeing this coming. I went into this book blind. I just heard it was about women who were whitewater rafting, and I just went right in. And I didn't even expect this accident to happen. And so when it happened, I was completely thrown aback. And from there, these women have to survive. And so they come upon some people in the forest, and they're not sure if these people are going to help them, hinder them, kill them. I don't know. You'll have to find out if you read it. But I absolutely loved this book. And what I loved about it was because it felt like more of a literary thriller. I really felt like I was more attached to the characters, and like it wasn't like a fast pace with like a twist. It was kind of like a slow burn. And these girls' friendship is like pressure tested while they're out in the elements. And like, oh, I don't know. It's hard to put into words how much I loved this book, but let me just say that it was a scary book. Like, it was scary in the way that like a thriller is scary because they're put in a very terrifying situation, but you just also really feel for the characters. And I really felt for the characters in this book. I wanted to cry at some points, and I also was like in suspense while they're like tumbling down this river, like scary, and like my heart was pounding. It just had everything that I loved. And this was an absolute 5-star for me. I don't know where this author has been my whole life, but I need to read more of her books because I looked it up. I think she has 2 other books that are also kind of set in like these adventurous type settings, and I need more of it immediately. The last book that I read in April was called Rooted in Silence by A.M. Walker. And this book was about a really unhinged female main character, if you like those types of characters. She is studying botany, but not because it's a hobby, but because she's trying to kill her husband, okay? She takes notes about these poisonous plants in her little spiral notebook, and she keeps them hidden away. She's like obsessed with control, and okay, I'm sorry, I said husband, but he's her fiance. So she's basically engaged to this guy, and she's planning to kill him on their wedding night. And so the whole book, you're kind of like with her throughout her like planning process, and like she's getting these poisonous plants together, and she's having these little tests. And it's really interesting because you're kind of learning about poisonous plants as well. So knowledge, good. Or is it? And then on the wedding night, things just kind of go haywire. And I really was stressed out reading about the wedding night for this one. My heart was kind of pounding a little bit just reading the scenes from the wedding, and I was really nervous about what would happen. So kudos to the author for that. But I do feel like what's missing from this book was a little bit more character depth, because the writing was so good. Like, it was very poetic. There was a lot of metaphors. Sometimes I feel like there might have been a little bit too many metaphors, but it was really good writing. It reminded me of Gillian Flynn. It reminded me of Alice Feeney. But I just felt like there was something missing in this book. And I think it was like just more the day-to-day of the main character, because the whole book we're kind of seeing her plan this murder, and I would have loved to just know a little bit more about her, and like, did she have a job? How did she grow up? Just a little bit more about her history. But aside from that, I did enjoy it. I was gifted a copy of this book because I'm on the ARC team for this second book that's coming out called Bound in Botany. So this is book 1. And so I'm about to read an arc of book 2. So I was gifted book 1 so I could read it before book 2. And so thank you so much to the author for that. And I'm really looking forward to book 2, but I gave this one a 3-star, and I'm really excited about the second one. And so that's it. Those are the 7 books that I read in April. I'm hoping to read my typical 8 books in May. We'll see how that goes. And I am actually having a really good May reading month so far. But thank you so much for being here, and let me know what you read in April. Did you have any flops? Did you have any 5 stars? I would love to know. So thank you so much. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, have you subscribed to my newsletter yet? I send a newsletter every week with all of the new horror and thriller releases. If you are not on it, you are missing out, because I'm trying to keep your TBR stacked over here, okay? All right, guys, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.